What does a typical waterproofing project look like for you?
It starts out typically like a puddle, because what happens is nobody.
Now, when you're doing waterproofing, is it all interior work, or are you ever doing exterior work as well?
We do exterior as well, but when we do,
People ask that for sure. Like, what kind of guarantees do I get with it?
when you do a roof, you do the roof.
Yep.
So we get people sometimes that'll say, "Well, Doug, it just aches on this wall."
Exactly.
It's like, yeah. So my roof is only broken over here.
Yeah. What are some of the issues that homeowners should look out for when hiring a waterproofing company that is going to come in and waterproof their basement?
Well, with any company, not just a waterproofing company, I would suggest that a homeowner should.
What restaurant would you recommend?
Well, I had dinner on Tuesday night at.
All right. What's going on, Doug? Welcome to Jersey Home Pro Podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I'm glad to get you on, man, and know a little bit about your story, and we're looking to get your story out there for everyone else to hear it.
Here's my story. It's sad, but true.
Yeah, that's it, and that's it. So A1 Basement Solutions out of Garwood, New Jersey, right?
Yes.
All right. So before we dive into the business, A1 Basement Solutions, let's talk about Doug Lynch. So let's tell the listeners about who you are, how you got into the industry. Even go back as far as a kid. When did you start working? Things like that. Let's talk about that.
Well, let's go back a ways. So I owned a taxi cab company in Edison, New Jersey, Alpha Cab, $30 to Newark Airport.
Nice.
And
What year is that?
Oh, this is back in the 90s.
Okay.
So I sold the business in the early 2000s, and I took some time off, went on vacation, and my background was in sales. And that started back from when I was in the Cub Scouts, and I remember selling vegetable seeds. Instead of candy, they had a thing selling vegetable seeds. And that propelled two things in my life: my love of gardening. So I planted some carrots that year from seeds I didn't sell,
Okay.
and selling. So I started both of those things back, I would say, like at 7 or 8 years old. They got implanted in my brain. So anyways, back to the cab company. I sold the cab company the early 2000s, and I went on vacation. I came back, said, okay, now what am I going to do? And I looked in the paper, and I found, because there were still newspapers back then, and I found a sales job, and it said closers wanted. So I called up, hey, I'm Doug the closer. When do I start?
Nice.
And I went up to Newark for an interview, and it was a company that did basement waterproofing. So I worked for them for quite a while until the housing crash happened in, 2007 and 2008. So 2008, I was a commission salesperson working for this company, and I got no commissions. I got no paychecks for like 3 months in a row. It was horrible. And the guy who owned the company that I worked for, he was a bit of an ass. I didn't care for him personally. And one day, brushing my teeth, I said, why am I working for that idiot? I could work for this idiot here in the mirror instead and make no paychecks. So I started out on my own, 0 customers, 0 potential was huge, but I had nothing to start with. And what happened was I was selling the Easy Breathe ventilation systems initially. I figured I'd just sell 3 a week, and I had the whole thing mapped out financially, and life would be good. The problem was getting the leads and everything else to sell those 3 units a week. And then a magic thing happened. There was a 2-day soaking rain. So part of the thing that I didn't like about the guy who I worked for at the basement waterproofing company was he wouldn't provide business cards. He's like, well, you're a 1099 guy. You provide your own business cards. So I did. And on my business cards, I put my name, the name of the company that I worked for, but I put my phone number. I didn't put his phone number. I put my phone number. So there was this 2-day soaking rain, and all of a sudden, bam, my phone blew up because I've been working for that company for years. I made thousands of contacts, helped hundreds and hundreds of people to have dry basements, and they called me based on the past relationships they had with me. So I pivoted. I got someone to subcontract for me to do the basement waterproofing, and I was not just in the ventilation system business anymore. I was back in the basement waterproofing business.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's how it all started, and that was in 2009.
2009. Wow, that's exactly the year I started my first tank business, actually, after I left my family business, 2009. Everybody said I was crazy because the market was going down the tubes, and they're like, this is not a time to start a business, but it's all about what you put into it, right? As far as, and what you can get out of it, for sure. That's awesome. That's a great story. Was it hard to find a subcontractor to get it going?
Oh, no. I had a guy that I knew of. I'd never met him.
Okay.
Another basement waterproofing guy. But being in the business, you find, because people get multiple estimates and everything else. So the guy had a decent reputation for treating people well and doing good work that resulted in a dry basement. So I called him up. I said, "Hey, here's my story." I went and met him up in North Jersey, 6 o'clock the next morning, and we had a handshake deal, which lasted for years. And he did work for me the following week.
Nice.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that was 2009. So kind of take me through kind of growing the business, a decent amount of services, right? So if you go on your website, it's not just waterproofing, you do some mold work as well. So you want to dive into a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. We hired the company in North Jersey to do the French drains and sump pumps for us, aka basement waterproofing. So basement waterproofing, French drains, and sump pumps are synonymous. So what that is a trench is cut in the interior of the basement, 12 inches wide, 12 inches deep. Below the floor level, holes are drilled in the walls to allow water to drain out of the walls. There's a few inches of stone, a big pipe to bring the water to the sump pit so the sump pump could eject the water from the building. Then the trench is covered back with stone. There's a water diverter called polydrain, goes across and up, and then the floor is re-cemented closed. So I hired the subcontractor to do that, and then we did everything else. So I had two guys working for me that did all the prep work. So we'd go in and move the washer dryer. We'd move all the customers' stuff, cover all their crap with plastic and everything else, and then do the ventilation systems. We would install the battery backup sump pumps to accompany the primary sump pumps. And we did all of that stuff. And that went on for years until my guys got laid off because we had no work. I had to lay them off around this time of the year, like around November, weeks before Christmas even. It was just a horrible feeling to not have work for them and money to pay them at that time of the year. And then I looked at the year-end financials and I looked at how much I paid the subcontractor. So I said, we need to start doing all the work.
Yeah.
So we did. We started doing all the work again. Just grew from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And mold. So mold, I know there's not a lot of guys that offer that, and there's some guys that are not great at, as far as doing the right thing, right? So you could talk a little bit about mold because I know there's certain things in that industry that they say they do the right work, but they're not really doing a proper cleanup, right? Mold could be a little bit not a difficult service, but have to know what you're doing, right, in order to offer that service.
We were those guys. We thought we knew what we were doing for mold remediation. We were wrong. We were proved to be wrong. So we offered not remediation, but we offered mold conditioning, mold cleanup or something at no charge along with the basement waterproofing job, right? So we get a nice basement waterproofing job, and then we offered the mold cleanup as a thank you for your business. Yeah. And what happened was this guy, customer in Colonia, he had a mold issue and he had a lab come in after we were gone and it was still present. So then I talked to the lab guy and the lab guy said, well, you need to do this and this. So I said, okay. So we went back to that house. We did this and this that the lab guy told us, and the mold was still there. So then we ended up hiring a professional lab company to come in and teach us how to do mold remediation. So since that time, we joined the Indoor Air Quality Association of America. We got a mold certification. There's no state requirement for mold remediation or mold certification. It's just something that we have to satisfy ourselves that we knew how to do it right. Because here we are telling people we're killing the mold and we weren't, man.
Yep.
And I felt terrible about that. But we were doing the best we could and we thought it was sufficient. We thought we were doing, the right job. It turns out we weren't, but now we are. So since that time, we do a whole big protocol for mold remediation. We still have the mold spray that we offer for free. The mold remediation is not for free because it's a big protocol. It's like a lead abatement or asbestos removal where you have to section off the contaminated area. You have to seal the whole room. You have to put it under negative pressure so you don't get cross-contamination of mold spores going upstairs and everything. And then it has to be removed under certain protocols and everything very specifically. And we treat all mold that way now since we know, and that's about the last 10 years or so.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously the guys are wearing the PPE and they're going in there and
Absolutely.
everybody is safe and everything like that, right?
Yeah, treating it like the hazmat that it is.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I come from the environmental industry, oil tanks. So I'm familiar with all that, PPE and all that stuff. We were in the hazmat spill response business for a while as well. So yeah, you got to have all your guys protected and, put the plastic up so you're not getting that cross contamination. It's super important, because you get some of these fly by night guys coming there. Oh yeah, we could do mold remediation, and they're coming in there, like you said, maybe they're trying to do the right thing and they're just not sure, like how you guys started. But the fact that you guys are all certified and you've gone through all these organizations now, I think that counts for a lot for sure,
Oh, absolutely.
to know that you're doing the right job, because it's important. I mean, you're talking about people's health.
Yeah, yeah, and the mold is a lot of people think it's not as important as it is because there are over 10,000 types of mold that have been identified on the earth, and every single one of them has a potential to be harmful or even fatal to somebody that's allergic to that specific type of mold. So basically, the rule is mold belongs in the forest where it's a part of nature, but not inside the house.
Okay. Yeah. That's a nugget right there. 10,000. I didn't know there was 10,000 different kinds of mold,
That's
huh?
crazy.
Wow. Yeah. So what is the worst case you've seen so far with the mold remediation where you had to come in and remediate it?
We had this elderly couple in Piscataway about 5 or 6 years ago. It was in the summertime. I went to knock on the door. They had their storm door up still. They never changed it to screens. When I opened the storm door and the regular like oak door or whatever was closed, when I opened the storm door, the smell of the mold hit me in the face. I let the door close. I was walking back to my car to get a mask. The guy says, "Hey, hey, I'm home. I'm home."
They were living in that house?
They were living in the
Oh,
house.
man.
And I says, "Well, I'll be right back. I have to get a mask." So I got the mask and I says, this is, I said, "I'm allergic to mold. So this is
Yeah.
what," and they were really nice people, but they were like clueless, man. They were living in this mold factory. When we went downstairs, their basement had been wet for years. There was standing water in the basement. There was wet cardboard everywhere, and the mold growth was just prevalent. Like one active piece of mold can put out millions of spores
Yeah.
a day. So this place is just so contaminated. That was the worst I've ever seen.
Wow. And that reminds me of a job I did with a very similar situation, older couple. They were living with oil. There's probably about 4 or 5 inches of oil in their basement floor
Wow.
throughout the entire basement. And like you said, the cardboard was sucking the oil up. I mean, we had to get dumpsters in there. We had to throw half the stuff out down in there. We had to rip all the sheetrock out. And they were living like that. They didn't know. They're like, we have no idea. We keep going through too much oil. I'm like, yeah, because you're pumping it into your basement. The tank in the basement was leaking right into the ground. That was definitely by far the worst I've seen in a basement for sure. And then people were just clueless. You said they were sold, they couldn't get in the basement. The reason why it was found is I guess the guy had some kind of medical issue where they called for help. They had to come get him out of the house. And the fire department was like, what is that smell? And they went down there, they saw the oil. And that's when we got called in.
I had a situation that reminds me of what you just said. The lady's cat got sick. Okay. So the lady's cat, Fuzzy, the cat was named Fuzzy, was very sick.
Okay.
They brought it to the vet, numerous tests and this and that. And the doctor said, "Well, what about mold? Do you have mold in the house?" And I was referred to this lady. Now, she lived alone in this big house and she kept a kosher refrigerator freezer in the basement. So she only basically went into the basement a couple times a year to get food out of the kosher freezer in the basement. And she was sort of oblivious to the jungle of mold that was growing in her basement. So we did a heck of a job for her. We took every single thing out of the basement. We put in her driveway 2 containers. One was a dumpster and one was a container. And we sat her down in the middle of it and we brought every single thing out. And does it go in the dumpster or does it go there? And then we got everything remediated in the basement, made it all dry and healthy. Then we remediated everything that she was keeping and brought it back down into the basement. But that job took us quite a while. It was over a week and the cat got better.
Wow. Yeah, I would imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as the waterproofing, so in a project like that, I mean, is the reason why the mold is there is because obviously there's water, right? And the mold is coming from the water intrusion, and that's why you're putting the waterproofing system in to avoid that.
Yeah, exactly. So mold is alive. So just like us, mold needs food and water every day, right? Or like me, many times a day. So what you have dead organic matter in the house. So the wood that the floor joists and the subfloor is made of, whether there's drywall on the floor, cardboard boxes, etc. So you have the food, the dead organic matter. Then when you introduce the water, then the mold can thrive.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. So what are you seeing when your clients are calling you? I mean, what does a typical waterproofing project look like for you? I mean, is it somebody calling in because they have a little pool or a little puddle of water in the corner of their basement? Or is it someone that just has 3 feet of water in the basement? I mean, what's a typical project for you guys?
It starts out typically like a puddle because what happens is nobody typically gets a flood the first time.
Yep.
Like the foundation gives you warning signs, shots across the bow, if you would, before the big attack. So typically when a house is built, and a lot of the houses around here were built in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. So when the foundation was created, the hole was dug in the ground, the foundation was built, and a coating of tar was put on the outside of the foundation. And tar is very excellent waterproofing. Tar lasts for about 30 years or so. But just like a roofing material, it's not permanent, right? And it has the same kind of life like a roofing shingle,
Yep.
made of a similar substance to start with, and it just has a limited life. It's a degradable substance. So after 30 years or 40 years for sure, the tar is mostly gone. 80% of it on the foundation is just gone. Then when there's a lot of rain over a short period of time, the water just accumulates in the ground and lays up against the house. It'll soak into the concrete foundation, fill up the hollow blocks, and then leak into the house. Yeah, so it starts with a puddle, and hopefully that's when people take action and call us,
Yep.
because next time you'll have a bigger puddle, and then eventually one day it'll be, 6 inches of water on the floor, and that could be dangerous because then you could start losing your major things like your boiler and your hot water heater, let alone your possessions.
No, absolutely. Now, when you're doing waterproofing, I mean, is it all interior work, or are you ever doing exterior work as well?
We do exterior as well, but when we do exterior, all we're doing is recoating the
Yep.
wall. Now, we don't use tar again, we use polymers and everything else, and it's guaranteed forever, but it's just guaranteed for the water coming through the wall. See, when the water table rises up around the house, you get water coming right from underneath, right? And you get the water coming through the sides. So you get water from the floor and the walls. So when we do the interior French drain, we guarantee for both because we're lowering the water table under the house by 8 inches and we're draining all the water out of the walls. If we just do the exterior wall, all we could guarantee is that water won't come through that wall.
Okay. So that's good to know. I mean, so yeah, because people ask that for sure. Like, what kind of guarantees do I get with it? Because it's not a small job, but it's like a roof, or you're doing foundation work and you're doing waterproofing job. They're typically expensive. They're not a small ticket, right? There's not a small item. It's it's a typically expensive project, right?
It's the same kind of thing too, and I would imagine you'll tell me if I'm misspeaking here, but when you do a roof, you do the roof.
Yep.
So we get people sometimes that'll say, "Well, Doug, it just leaks on this wall."
Exactly.
It's like,
Just patch this.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So my roof is only broken over here.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work that way. It is a basement, and
Yes.
it leaks. And just because it's leaking at this wall today doesn't mean that that wall or that wall won't be leaking next time.
Correct.
So we do it once. We do it right, and then we guarantee it forever.
Oh, that's great. 'Cause, the guarantee is where it's at. I mean, it's the same exact thing in the roof. And the way I explain to my customers is like, listen, it's like a bucket and you have holes in it. Yeah, you could put, plug this hole, but then more water's going to come out of this hole, and then you can plug that hole. It's just going to keep finding other holes to come out of.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what's going to happen. And especially, I mean, if the roof is 20, 25, 30 years old, it makes no sense, in my opinion, to do a repair. We have customers ask for that. Can you just do a small repair? And it's doable, but there's no guarantee with that. It's a Band-Aid basically on an open gushing wound.
Yeah, exactly. We had a lead. We had a potential customer. That's about 6 years ago. One of my reps went on it, not me, but went there, and the guy had 3 sump pumps. One on that wall, one on that wall, one on that wall. So my guy says, "Hey, well, what's up?" He said, "Well, that wall's leaking now." So, okay, understood. He says, "So who did this?" He says, "Well, I had, when it first leaked, it leaked over here. So I had a company come in and just do that wall." And he goes, "Oh, then what happened?" "Well, then it started leaking over there." So my guy says, "So you called back the same company?" "No, I didn't like him anymore. So I called somebody else and they did that wall."
Yep.
Then what happened? "Oh, well, eventually that wall started leaking."
Oh,
"So you called that guy?" "No, I didn't like him anymore. So I called a different company and they came in and did that wall. And now he wanted us to do the 4th wall." And our answer was no,
yeah.
because we don't touch anybody else's work, because the last guy in essentially becomes responsible
Of course.
for everything. So once again, our thing is do it once, do it right, guarantee it forever. So if somebody had one wall done, we would come in and do the entire basement and guarantee it forever, but we won't do the 3 walls to butt up against the one wall that was already done. Because we have a way of doing everything that we can guarantee it forever because we know what we're doing. We know the materials we use. My foreman, my waterproofing foreman, 23 years he's been doing this. We do it very, very well.
Yeah, and it's not an easy job, right? It's a lot of manual labor, right? It's very, I mean, you're not bringing any equipment down there, right? Maybe you're bringing some jackhammers, maybe to
Yeah.
break open the concrete and help you with the digging, but it's all buckets, right? Is that how you're getting the dirt out of there? I mean,
We use nylon bags, but yes, it's the same thing.
Okay.
Buckets and bags.
wow, yeah. So it's a lot of heavy lifting for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not an easy job.
The waterproofing crew, we haven't had anybody new I can't tell you how long. It's been years. The guys work together every single day. This is all that they do. The waterproofing crew does waterproofing, period.
Yeah.
So that's all that they do. So they work together like the the five fingers on the hand, right? When we're taking these bags out, they go out through the window, but it's a beautiful thing when you watch when we put them on the dump truck. The dump truck comes with the sand for making the concrete and the stone for filling the trench and everything. And then after that's offloaded, then the old material that we excavated out of the basement goes into the truck to be hauled away because we clean up at the end of the day. Everything is done. So the guys take the bags, which weigh about 40 pounds at that point. They're holding by two arms. They swing it up, but it goes up in such a way so it arcs and flips over. And the guy up in the truck catches it from the bottom of the bag, dumps it, and tosses the empty bag over the side. It's like a symphony. It's
Yeah, no,
a
that's
beautiful thing.
I'm thinking right now, that's great content to get, man. That'd be cool to watch. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I should get some video of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really cool. And these jobs are typically, I mean, are they 1 day, 2 days, 3 days?
Up to 100 feet within 10 miles, basically, of Garwood. We'll get that done in 1 day.
1 day.
Other than that, if it's more, well, 2 days, whatever it takes. We have a price per foot, and it doesn't matter how far or how many days it is. The price is what it is. We use a price list. We don't vary from the price list. We don't give discounts. People say, Doug, could you make the price smaller? I say, I don't know, Bob. Can you make the basement?
Could you shrink the basement?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We have a price list, and that's what's fair.
Yeah.
If you go into McDonald's and you buy 20 hamburgers, they cost the same as one hamburger times 20.
Yeah.
We have a price per foot. It's all inclusive, and that's what we charge.
Yeah. Now, is there any hidden costs, like line items? Some of these industries where there's line items that there's unknowns. So when you get in there, you're not going to be able to tell them how much it's going to cost. Like for roofing, it's the underdecking, right? It's the sheathing, it's the plywood, right? So we don't know until we're ripping off the shingles and how much of those pieces got to get replaced. Same thing in environmental, which we didn't know when we were excavating contaminated soil because it was in the ground, right? So nobody knew. I came up with a system where I was able to drill ahead of time, figure out exactly how much contamination was there, and then I give them a fixed price. Is there anything like that in the waterproofing industry?
No, we have, I can't speak for the whole industry. I could speak for our company.
Yeah.
We have never, ever changed a contract, not once.
God
In
bless you.
16 years, not ever. The worst thing that happens is we end up with more work. Sometimes we can't tell that typically it's a 4-inch concrete floor.
Yeah.
Sometimes we go in and it's an 8-inch floor. Sometimes it'll have rebar. We have to swizzle and cut each and every single piece of rebar throughout the whole thing. And something that should have taken us 1 day takes 3 days. That's on us.
Wow.
We make a contract. It's a contract. It's a legal binding document in our opinion, and we stick to it 100%.
That's amazing. That's awesome. I mean, that's why you guys have so many reviews, right? I mean, you guys have amazing Google reviews. You got a great reputation online. That's why we want to, give you guys a feature here and talk about your business. I mean, what about like other things that homeowners should look out for? So obviously that's how you guys work, and that's amazing. I think that's 100%. If you told me that coming to my house, I would just hire you just for that reason alone, knowing that there wasn't going to be any surprises, right? Because that's scary for a homeowner. You don't know what the final bill is going to be,
Sure.
And you could get in there and sign for 10 grand or 15 grand. Now you're paying 25 or 30. Nobody wants to do that. What are some of the, I don't want to say scams, but what are some of the issues that homeowners should look out for when hiring a waterproofing company that is going to come in and waterproof their basement?
Well, with any company, not just a waterproofing company, I would suggest that a homeowner should read the company's reviews on Google.
Yep.
Okay. We have over 325-star reviews. I don't have that many friends and relatives, quite simply.
Yeah.
But the thing to look for in the reviews is guarantee work, right? So I don't know how many of our 320 have to do with the guarantee, but we stand behind our guarantee. So if something goes wrong 6 months from now, 18 months from now, 5 years from now, we're going to come back and correct it, and there's no charge to the homeowner. We do it once, we do it right, we guarantee it forever, and we stand behind that. So you want to make sure that if you have a problem with the work that you contracted for going forward, that the company's going to be responsive and come back out and take care of the work.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's important. If there's a problem, I mean, we do the same thing. We stand
It's not a perfect world, right?
Yep. No, there's humans, right, involved in this work. So there's going to be, errors and things that come up. Then as long as the company's standing behind it, which obviously you guys are, it's reflective in your reviews. And that's the greatest thing about Google reviews. I mean, if you're not doing the right thing, if people are going to go online today and make us think about it. So your reputation is all you have at the end of the day if you're not doing the right thing.
Absolutely.
You guys are based out of Garwood. What areas of New Jersey do you guys cover?
Oh, we cover all of Central and, we cover, like, from Monmouth County all the way up to Bergen and Passaic and Sussex, pretty much everywhere. We sort of avoid Hudson County because there's no parking.
Yes. Oh, it's a
There's
nightmare.
just no parking anymore,
Nightmare.
so we don't sponsor any Google ads or anything else in Hudson County. We don't promote it, but if somebody from Hudson County calls, of course, we're receptive and responsive.
Yeah. Yeah, we had the same issues, tank business as well, all the heavy equipment we had to bring in there. There's nowhere to park. You need police on every job just for traffic control.
Sure.
It was a nightmare for sure. And some of these older homes, I mean, with stone foundations, how does that work? Because that's gotta be a little tricky, right? When you get into homes with the stone foundations in New Jersey?
It's not tricky, it's just different. So what happens is instead of a cinder block or concrete masonry unit, hollow block wall, where it's very simple, we open up our trench 12 inches by 12 inches, and then you have where the wall sits on the footing. So you have about 4 inches of the wall that used to be covered by the floor is now exposed. So we drill weep holes at
Okay.
the bottom of the blocks, and that's fine. With the stone wall, the water comes between the stones anywhere it can. Now, we don't repoint the whole wall. What we do is encapsulate it. So we have a thick material. It's the same thing we use for crawl space encapsulation, a 90 mil thick plastic. We cover the entire wall. We overlap the sheets. They're glued and then taped together. So any water that comes through the wall is captured and brought down into the French drain.
Oh, that makes sense, yeah.
That's the same thing we do with the house that has asbestos, because you can't leave an open trench. You can't leave any opening in the asbestos, so we have to seal the whole system. So we put the encapsulation material on the wall, and then where the encapsulation material comes, the drain board goes right over that, and then we seal that bead with a bead of caulk all the way around. So we're keeping all the radon underground where it can be remediated, and we're still waterproofing the house at the same time.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Give me a scenario where you had a customer that maybe complained because, maybe there was a mistake like we just spoke about, and how you guys rectified it, just so we could, kind of give the listeners some insight on how you deal with some issues that might pop up.
Dude, that's such a perfect segue because the process about remediation with a radon house and waterproofing with a radon house, that happened as a result of work that we did. So in the past, all we would do, we didn't encapsulate the walls. We had the drain board that came up, the water diverter system comes up out of the floor about 4 inches, and we would just seal it with silicone. So what happens is occasionally you can get water backed up in the blocks up high. And we had water come in, this is about 7 years ago, came in up high and started leaking out. Now, the way the French drain typically works is the water will trickle down the wall and go behind that drain board into the French drain. With these houses, with the radon, because we sealed that gap, the water couldn't get behind the drain board. So instead, it bounced off and flooded the basement. Not flooded, but
Yeah.
made puddles, but flooding. It's the same thing. So when we corrected that, we changed our company policy. We learned from that. That summer, we had two of the exact same thing. And it was jobs we'd done years ago. And people were very happy with the work until that happened. So we went in and corrected that at no charge because we stand behind our work regardless.
Yep.
And then we changed our company policy. We have on our agreement now, radon house, yes or no. Because if it's a radon house checked yes, then it has to have the wall encapsulation as part of the French drain system, which of course costs a little more, but it's the right way to do the job. There's only one right way.
Yeah. No, I like that. I mean, the fact that you guys, years later, you stand behind your work, and that just goes to show the type of company you run, you know?
And we learn from it. So what do? We pivot.
Yes.
Okay. Change what has to, the way that the radon house job is done is now different from a non-radon house.
Yep.
But that's fine because we're doing it properly now.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, that's exactly as an entrepreneur. That's how you operate. Everyone thinks you get into business, you automatically know the answers for everything. You're learning kind of along the way, and as long as you're pivoting and you're going to fail. But if you just pivot on those and you learn, you take those as lessons, right?
Absolutely.
And you're constantly tweaking your processes and your systems to give your customers the best, possible customer service you can, right? And as you're making those mistakes, you just adjust. Okay, well, that's not the right way to do it. Let's do it this way. So it sounds like you kind of done that your whole career. And I operate the same exact way, and how else do you learn? You got to learn by doing and then adjusting and not making the same mistake twice, right?
Exactly. It's the same thing with the mold. We didn't know we were making a mistake until we found out we were. Same thing with the radon house. We didn't know we were making a mistake until we found out we were.
Yeah.
So we adjust, we pivot, and we reattack.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've learned a lot about waterproofing, and this has been an awesome conversation. Is there anything you'd like to add, to the listeners for them to know about you or your business, A1 Basement Solutions?
Yeah, sure. So I tell people we're old fashioned contractors because I don't know a better way to describe it. And they said, Doug, what do you mean by that? Well, it's very simple. We show up on time. We do everything that we say we're going to do. We work at the customer's home on consecutive work days until the job is finished. In other words, we don't vanish for 3 days.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to Home Depot, and then you don't see us till next week. We clean up very, very well when we're done, and then we guarantee the work forever.
Yeah.
So it's pretty straightforward. It's not a complicated code, but it's a code we live by, and it serves us well.
No, that's awesome, and that's exactly why we want to give you the spotlight here because there's a lot of companies nowadays, especially there's a lot of private equity backed companies, really big companies that are operating like a massive business where they're not able to give that customer service. They're not able to give the guarantees and come back at no charge to fix what was maybe not done correctly. And, we want to highlight, people that are from Jersey in this local area that are giving the type of service that you're obviously giving. And yeah, no, it's been great. So the last question we'd like to answer, or we'd like to get an answer to, it's kind of off the cuff a little bit, but give us a restaurant recommendation. So you're a local guy, Garwood. Do you live in Garwood, or where do you live?
I live in Westfield.
You live in Westfield. Okay, so give us a restaurant recommendation, either Garwood or anywhere in Jersey for the listeners who are listening in. On what restaurant would you recommend?
Well, I had dinner on Tuesday night at the Adams Tavern on Elm Street in Westfield.
Okay.
Fantastic meal. I had a nice cocktail and a pork chop. The pork chop came with sauce on it. And usually if I knew that, I would ask for the sauce on the side, but the sauce was amazing. The pork chop was amazing. The whole meal was great.
No, that's awesome. Awesome. Well, listen, Doug, I appreciate you coming on, and tell the listeners where they could contact you. He's going to be listed on our directory, which is teddyroofing.com/black book. And that's our directory of our vetted home service contractors here. And, but tell them where they could contact you directly as well.
Sure. So first off, our motto is at A1 Basement Solutions, we make basements dry and healthy forever. You can reach us by telephone at 908-322-1313 or on the web at a-1basements.com. So that's A like apple, a hyphen, a numeric 1, basements, plural.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Doug. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Awesome.